which NFL teams are making the playoffs, and who's staying home. It's Who's In, Who's Out on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's football station.
All right, another week of just unexplainable situations in the NFL. Who's in and who's out? Let's take a look from the AFC East. The New England Patriots, 9-0. They're pretty much going to wrap this thing up in the next couple of weeks here.
As we predicted before Thanksgiving, 9-0. Bills 4 games back. Jets 4 games back. It's a fait accompli. Patriots again.
Which team, by the way, on their schedule gives them the biggest scare down the stretch here? Is it Buffalo, Denver, Philadelphia, Houston, Tennessee, the Jets, or the Dolphins?
That's not a very difficult schedule. It really isn't.
They're at Denver.
I think the biggest problem with the Patriots is what happened last week, is the injuries. They're not the same team simply because Deion Lewis isn't there. Julian Edelman's not going to be there. The offensive line is so banged up. So even though they should go the distance, 16-0 on paper, somebody in that group is going to jump up and beat them.
All right, in the North, we saw them lose last night, but they still have a pretty comfortable lead, so Cincinnati's the pick.
Yeah, in a weird way, that loss didn't even affect me if I'm Cincinnati, because their best players let them down. Tyler Eifert with 3 drops. A.J. Green with the fumble as they're going down to potentially win the game in the final minutes. And I thought it was a poor game plan. Cincinnati's still a very good football team. As I say, if you're 13-3, you're going to lose probably the 3 teams you shouldn't lose to. That was what happened to Cincinnati last night against Houston.
All right, in the South, last week I went with Houston. They pulled off an upset. They were going to have to do that a couple of times. They did it last night, and so I'm sticking with Houston.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with the Colts until they lose an AFC South game. I'm not going away from them. Obviously, Matt Hasselbeck is going to have to keep their head above water. I think he's one of the better backup quarterbacks in this league, despite the fact that he's 40. He can hold on. And
he probably doesn't like the Sixers plan either, then.
No, he doesn't. But I'm sticking with the Colts.
I like Houston, and the reason I do, John, is the defense. They're a better defensive team than the Colts are. They both have quarterback issues, and I think if Hasselbeck has to get called on for an extended period of time,
then
they might be in some trouble in there. All right, in the West, Denver obviously lost 2 in a row now all of a sudden.
And Peyton's not going to play this week. He's got the tear in his plantar fascia, so we'll see how that moves forward. They're in a bigger issue than, say, Indianapolis, because Brock Osweiler's their backup, not proven at all. So all of a sudden, the Chiefs and Raiders have an opportunity to at least push back in that division, but you have to say the Broncos have enough in the bank.
Yeah, and the Chiefs just beat the Broncos head-to-head, so there's that. But I got Denver too. All right, the wild cards. This is tough. This is last week, by the way, my wild cards. I went with Pittsburgh and Oakland. One of those is out.
Yeah, Pittsburgh still remains in. How tough is Ben Roethlisberger? Wasn't supposed to play, but suited up in case he would have to play.
Threw for 380 yards and 3 touchdowns.
What a player. They're in. They're one of them. Kansas City is my other one. They're back in the equation after beating Denver. I've said since the beginning of the year, they're actually a good football team. Had a lot of things go the opposite direction. I think they're going to get right back in it and be a wild card team.
I've got Kansas City 2. At the beginning of the year, I had them winning the division. I agree. I think Kansas City is a much better football team than their 4-5 record. You look at them at 4-5 and look at Philly at 4-5, and you say, their arrow seems to be pointing up. Philadelphia's arrow seems to be pointing down, and they lost Jamal Charles, maybe the biggest weapon in the league, and they just plug in. This goes back to what I was saying in the offseason. Charchandrick West. You don't need to spend $40 million on DeMarco Murray.
That's true.
All right, Jeremy Langford. You don't need to spend $40 million on DeMarco Murray. You can just draft Langford in the 4th round, and you're fine.
Allocation of assets. That's what we talked about with Chip Kelly. Not necessarily the players. The running back position has been devalued unless you're getting Adrian Peterson. Yeah,
or
don't
Todd
spend
Gurley.
$40 million on a running back. I agree with you.
All right, in the NFC, let's start from the bottom up. We'll go with the West. Arizona continuing to roll there. They've got about a 2.5 game lead over the Rams. They've won 3 in a row. And, man, they've got over 300 points on offense. That team, they're legit, man.
Oh, yeah, and they got their signature win, beating Seattle in Seattle, scoring 39 points on that defense on the road. Most they've given up in 5 years, the Seahawks. Cardinals are the most talented team on the NFC side of things.
In the South, Carolina is 3 games up on Atlanta, and they beat them head-to-head. No reason to think they're going to fumble that away.
No, Carolina, perfect, and Atlanta's going in the opposite direction.
Lost 2 in a row.
Yeah, the Panthers are running away.
In the North, last week, I think I made the change. Minnesota was the pick.
I'll tell you, I'll make the change after this week. The Vikings have Green Bay at home. I think they're going to get Aaron Rodgers' A game. Packers are 9-1-1 over the last 11 against the Vikings. Until the Vikings beat them, I'm sticking with the Packers.
That's a good point. The Vikings have won 5 straight, but Minnesota's given up 154 points this year. Their defense is legit.
Yeah, their defense is. Offense is the problem, offensive line specifically, and I want to see them beat Green Bay.
Yeah.
If they beat Green Bay this week, and they should, because they're the more talented team and they're playing at home, that's when I make the change.
All right, I got Minnesota. He's going with Green Bay. In the East.
Do I have to pick somebody?
The Sixers.
I might pick the Sixers. You know what? I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. No, I'm joking. That was a complete joke. I'm going back to the Washington Redskins. Kirk Cousins had one of those games again. Perfect passer rating, granted against the worst defense in the history of professional football. Rob Ryan out in New Orleans. Just why not the Redskins? The Eagles are not consistent. The Giants are not talented enough. I'm going back to the Redskins.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, I'm going with defense like I typically do. Philadelphia's got the best defense, and it's not close. They've only given up 184 points. Giants have given up 253. And when you get to those games late in the year, it's the defense, more mistakes. I think the Eagles take advantage of that. And
how bad is it? By the way, how bad is it that the signature of the Philadelphia Eagles is their defense, with Chip Kelly as their head coach?
It's unbelievable. They've only given up 184 points all year.
That's
one of the tops in the league.
Very good defensive unit.
Yep.
There's no question about it.
So because of that, I don't know what's going to get it done. 8-8. 8-8 would mean they go.
Well, they would have to go 5-2 to get to 9 wins. I don't see this Eagles team capable. I don't care who they're playing.
You might be right about that.
I can't see them winning 5 out of 7 games.
I'll take Philly for the week, but that's a flimsy one. All right, give me your wild cards.
Wild cards are the Vikings. Obviously, they're a playoff team. It's just a matter of can they win the NFC North or get in as a wild card. And it comes down to, can the Falcons hold off some of these 4 and 5 teams? I think they have enough built up in the bank to do that, mainly because I don't think anybody's consistent enough around that group with Tampa Bay, Chicago, the Redskins, the Eagles, the Giants, the Rams, the Seahawks. Only the Giants are 5-5. The rest of that group is 4-5. I don't see the consistency from any of them.
I got Green Bay. I don't know what to do with Atlanta. I think they're a fraud, but their schedule is pretty light. I don't know that even matters. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle jumped back in there. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants got it. If it's the wild card team ends up being 8-8 at this point.
I don't think Atlanta can fall to that degree. So you're going to have to get to 9 wins minimum, and maybe 10, because as I said, the Falcons have built up enough in the bank that they're going to be able to get there with a weak schedule. I don't see any way any of those teams can make a move.
Seattle's offense is hideous.
Yeah, it is. Offensive line.
I'll give the Falcons one more week.
You have to.